Are you ready for the weekend yet? We have events, news, and a guest for you to enjoy this Lake Life weekend. Hello and welcome to another episode of Lake Life Weekend Podcast. I'm Dirk, I'm your host, and we're approaching weekend 33. For a brief moment, it felt like fall coming already, but we are back to summer days. Let's enjoy the sun and the weather. Let's get out and explore. Before I share some upcoming events, stay tuned today for an interview with Brent from Portland, Oregon, one of our, as far as we know, furthest away listener. And you hear his lake life story, how he grew up on a lake near Vergas, which a property his grandfather purchased exactly 60 years ago. A really interesting story. And what he is up to on the vacation rental online market, where he has an idea he tries to put into a online venture. So a really interesting lake life story, in fact. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget, this Thursday, we have the Aqua Chautauqua at Dunton Locks in Detroit Lakes. So I hope you will make it, or you did make it. And I also want to make a big shout out, thank you for the City of Vergas and the planning committees for a really, really successful and wonderful Looney Days. I hope you can agree with me, and I hope you were able to attend one of the many days and events. It was really nice. We had good weather, but we had cute events. the Wiener Dog Race, Loon Calling Contest, Sandcastle Contest, also growing. Very excited to see that. We had Dixie on the Dock. We had a doggy plunge, which I attended to with my son Harry. Very cute event. Well, all kinds of things. It's growing. So thank you for that. City of Vergas. We have so many more events coming this weekend, which I would like to direct you again to our Lake Life Weekend map, which is still under development, but working better and better. Please give us your feedback, what you think. We were going to make a little poll of what color scheme you like, if you like it more blue, or if you like it more light. So this weekend is filled with events in the local area. So please go to wkndnow.com, that's wkndnow.com for a direct link, or just go to our lakelifeweekend.com website and you will find a link to our event map. So check that out, let us know what you think. I don't want to keep this much longer from our interview part with Brent. So enjoy this weekend's interview and have a great time ahead. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to our interview part. I'm here with Brent Hieggelke from actually Portland, Oregon.
That's correct.
Hi,
great
Brent.
Great to be here. Yeah, great to be here, Dirk. I've been a fan of the podcast for a long time, so it's awesome to meet you face to face.
Yeah, we mentioned you a couple weeks back, and then you emailed us. We sent you a magazine in the spring. So we learned about you 6 months ago, that you are a regular listener, and I might say my biggest fan, because you said you listen to almost all the podcasts, at least the one that I know.
Probably your biggest fan in Portland, Oregon.
Yes. No, I'm really excited because it's rare that we have a guest approach us. So that is exciting, but also your story is very exciting. The one that I learned about in our little pre-discussion already. I think there's a lot for you to share about lake life, the region, the lakes country that you have been visiting all your life, and the ties from your family, your grandfather who built a cabin 60 years ago or purchased land 60 years ago. So I do want to touch on your family, history, and connection to lakes country. But I also want to learn about who you are and why you chose to listen to our program, your interests in lake life in general, what you do when you lake life, but also you told me that you are an entrepreneur and a marketeer, and you are involved in vacation rentals and online platforms, and there's a lot to hear. And I always meet people that want to ask questions like that. So I thought maybe that would be also very interesting for our audience. So let's start with who is Brent, where you're from, how you arrived here, and then we go from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I was lucky to be born into a family that had already discovered lake life. So my grandparents were in Fargo, Moorhead, and my grandma and grandpa ran a small appliance store. And so they were selling appliances all over the area. My grandpa discovered the lakes area out of Fargo from delivering appliances in the early days of the 1950s when the lakes region was just starting to really develop. And he dreamed of owning a place, but he was running a small business, didn't have much money. So there was a new development out near Vergas where somebody had bought a farmer's lake, divided it into small plots, and were selling them off. And he, being a very frugal man, waited until the very end when they were discounted, and he bought our piece of Lake Paradise for $200 in 1959, so 60th anniversary, and spent the next several years with my father's help and some friends building a very small cabin. It was almost like a glorified campsite back then.
Yeah.
And built this cabin. It was an outhouse, so when I was a child, when I was born, we were coming to this very rustic place, no running water, no plumbing, 4 a.m. in a lightning storm going down, to the outhouse and being terrified. But it was a favorite place in the world. And
so you did not grow up in Lakes Country. So your father helped your grandfather build the cabin, the 50s
Correct,
cabin,
yes.
as I actually like him. And this is the Minnesota cabin. We're talking wood, non-insulated, seasonal.
Exactly. Yeah.
How big?
900 square feet, knotty pine walls, but open rafters, no insulation, very simple. He restored some kitchens, so he ripped cabinetry out of a 1930s house. That's the kitchen we have now in our lake house. The cupboard, still. The cupboard is from his grandma's farm. So, it's full of odds and ends and, the lantern from my grandma's farm in the 1900s. Everything is just, kind of found objects and very simple.
It's like the most authentic. That's actually the lake cabin that I enjoy the most personally. I mean, just secretly between you and I and the audience, I guess. I love that because it just has that feel. That's this Minnesota lake life that I see in picture books and is nostalgic, and there's the memories. Your father has all those memories of pounding nails and schlepping things in, and you grew up there when your father proudly showed it to you, I assume.
Exactly. So so my grandparents decided it was time to sell it, and we lived in Chicago area. So my family
grew up in Chicago?
I grew up outside of Chicago. Yeah, my parents moved there. My dad was a professor, and so we grew up driving 10 to 15 hours every summer, sometimes multiple times a summer up here, which is why I had a taste of lake life, but I didn't get very deep into it. But we absolutely loved it, and it was the favorite part of the year. And I would literally have dreams in the wintertime in Chicago of being at the lake and just wake up and being so sad I had to go to school instead of going out on the water on an inner tube. But anyway, it was such an important part of me. When I became sort of 17, 18 years old, I would always go on, whenever I went to vacation, I would always look for sort of the real estate magazines of the places that had second homes, lake homes or mountain houses, because I just knew inherently this idea of having a cabin that you go to on the weekends. It was what my grandparents started doing every weekend, and I was like, that is what people should do. So
to balance. And tell me, do you remember stories from your grandfather or grandmother saying like that was the best decision, or like did they use it? They never traveled further? Yeah, they didn't go to Mexico or Canada. That was like the balance. That's what they
never left. So yeah, they're both passed now, but they never left Fargo. They stayed here even when my parents left, and they could have come to Chicago. This was their home, and they loved the lifestyle up here. So they never forgot that. They never wanted to leave it. And so when my parents took the cabin over, my parents bought the cabin from them. They were delighted because now they could come down and enjoy the cabin, but not have to worry about it. And my parents started taking care of the cabin. And then my parents are going to hand it down to my brothers and I. So eventually, when they're sort of done with all the care and maintenance, we'll take it over. So it's going to stay in the family, and that's just
generational place.
And what's nice is the family to the left and to the right of us, the same scenario.
Same story.
Same families as the original, 1950. And the resort on the lake too, Lost Valley Resort.
Yep.
That wasn't built until that was actually just raw land when my grandpa bought the cabin, and now that's a multi-generation classic Minnesota resort. You know, Ron and Tammy run it, and their father Ralph, built it, and so there's just so much longevity, and it's a magical place in the world. I mean, that's when I leave Portland in the summer, my friends are like, "You're crazy! Portland's rainy in the winter, and now it's beautiful. Why are you leaving to go to Minnesota? Mosquitoes and all that." And I'm like, "You don't understand where I'm going. Like, if you could come there, you would get it." Yeah. But you'd have to come and experience it. But it's really funny.
We have a very well kept secret.
It is an amazingly well kept secret, So anyway, it's one of the most magical places in the world, and I really
feel like where I'm from in Germany, like we travel because Europe is so small. I mean, like it took me 2 hours to be in Amsterdam. So of course you go to the Netherlands or you go to the ocean. 5-hour drive, I'm in Paris, where I grew up. So that's just normal to me. If I drive 3 hours here, I'm in Minneapolis. I'm still it's just further away. So I do understand that our second home lifestyle is like, because of distance, that's really what we're seeking, and that is like my. If we go to Amsterdam, let's call it the North Sea. So we have that right in our backyard too. I think that's why so many people own property, because we have the access. It used to be only $200. It's a little bit more now, I guess, potentially. But yeah, you have the opportunity to balance and rejuvenate every weekend.
And I think also because the volume of lakes and the amount of property here, it does keep the prices affordable. So you can have, it's not uncommon, right, to have 2 school teachers be able to afford a lake home an hour or 2 away. Whereas you go to a lot of places in the world and you have to be a millionaire to even think about owning a second home. It's a luxury item, but here it's in the reach of most people, which is another sort of amazing asset. Because I would say in Portland, second homes can typically be in resort communities, and they're $600,000-$700,000. So that's out of the range of
explain to me, how is Portland? I mean, the real estate market
it's West Coast. For the West Coast, we're an affordable city, but it's still expensive compared to here for sure. It's probably 2 to 3 times more expensive to own anything. Yeah, and so that's just the West Coast. Right. So we come here, and my friend who's visiting right now, childhood friend, he's from Chicago. And we look at the listings of what's available, and it's like, this is amazing. Yeah. It's amazing how affordable this is compared to, kind of what we're used to. Yeah. No, it's to us, of course, it seems expensive at times, but there is access to lakeshore property at an affordable price. I find even lots undeveloped, or those little cabins. Anyhow, so you're coming back. You bring your children. You have 3 children yourself? Correct. And they all grew up with lake life, obviously? It's their favorite place in the world. They love it? Literally, it's their number one place to go. And really? So that sort of magical experience that I have is now in them. You're passing it down. Honestly, was really important to me, because I wanted them to have that same thing. And they would come here, and they should throw their cell phones into a drawer and not touch them. Now of course they want to capture photos. So because now they pretend, but they loved kind of unplugging and getting off the internet, getting off of Snapchat for a while, and just enjoying the lake. Not wearing shoes, just running on the gravel, and catching fish, and wakeboarding and tubing, and just all we don't watch TV. We just play cards at night, and it's just that kind of old-fashioned lifestyle that I think everyone craves. We try to capture that every summer for a few weeks. Yeah, no, and you're not the only one, and that's good. Maybe we can hear from more people telling us their generational experience. But I also would like to hear from you. You mentioned earlier, tell us a little bit more about your professional background, if you don't mind, and then where that led you to, and how you merged your experience and your Minnesota lake life into your work of today. Sure. So like you, I've been kind of a lifelong entrepreneur. My brother and I started a media company in Chicago when I was in college, and it's called New City, and he's turned that now into sort of a magazine with his wife. They have a magazine and film production, so I worked with him for about a decade getting that established. Then I moved to Portland, Oregon, and got into marketing, building marketing teams for startup companies, primarily in the tech industry. So I got aware of technology, and then when the internet was really took off, I started working in a lot of digital realms, and then kind of in 2009. I basically brought everything I knew together: media, technology, digital, and my love for vacation homes, and that developed from my lake life experience. And I started a company in the vacation rental space, merged with social media, with the idea. And honestly, this was founded by my cabin experience, because I knew our cabin was such a precious place for us that we would never rent that to a stranger, right? So you have sites like Airbnb and VRBO, where people are renting their homes to complete strangers, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, me too.
That's
I don't
terrifying
want to
for most people.
Yeah.
And granted, it's a massive industry, and those companies are wildly successful, and many people do rent their homes to strangers. But I had this idea that many more people would be able to rent their cabins or mountain houses if they could keep it to a network of people that they had some level of trust with: friends, friends of friends, family members, friends of family members, and there was just no capability to do that. So we started a company called Second Porch. We built it, integrated it with Facebook. So the idea is you could rent it to your Facebook community where there was some level of trust. Granted, Facebook's changed a lot since 2009. It's not as probably trusted as it was back then. But back then, Facebook was really your friends and your family
sphere.
members. Yep, it was your social sphere, your social connections. And so anyway, we started that, and
you were the first.
Yeah,
No, it was the
first in the world to do that, to create this idea of a social network around a vacation property, second home, and did that for a few years. I met the founders of HomeAway, which was, they owned VRBO and many of the other sites that are very popular. They loved what we were doing, and they bought our company, and then they went public, and now they got acquired by Expedia. So now that company is part of Expedia, and so. And the sad thing was, kind of everything we did there, they basically kind of just dismantled, because they got distracted by big company things, and they basically never really embraced the vision we had. So all of this idea of being able to take a cabin and maybe rent it for a few weeks a year, maybe pay your tax bill out of that rental income, just defray some of that extra cost, so maybe you can afford a cabin earlier than you might be able to normally, was never really realized. And so
with that group of
with that
HomeAway.
idea, yeah. So just recently, I was a friend of mine is an entrepreneur in Portland, and I was telling him this sort of unfinished business, this vision. And he got really excited, and he goes, "Hey, let me start this with let me start this. You're busy, you got a full-time job, but I have time." And so we've been off rebuilding the vision, and so we're getting ready to kind of unveil that. And so it's not really ready yet, but there's a landing page.
Okay, and what is it called?
So everyone knows VRBO. So our idea is, hey, we want to do that concept, but with friends and family.
So vacation rental by owner. That's what
VRBO is, right? Vacation rental by owner. And so our site is VRBFF, Vacation Rental by Friends and Family. So VRBFF.com is.
And you own the domain?
Own the domain. Yep. Own the domain. And so, I'm an advisor and a investor in the company. My friend and some other technology folks, Scott and Dan, are running the company and working on the company, building it all.
The technology side?
Side and the executive kind of operations of it. And so again, we haven't launched it. It's still kind of being built, but I think you can sign up your email if you want to follow it and get notified of it.
Well, but like how is it actually then? How do I integrate it with like only my? Because now the trick is, I guess, if I think about that right. So I have to invite all my sphere, like let's say my Facebook friends or all my friends from my phone book, or what is that called?
Your contacts.
My contacts. Yep. So I have to sync them with that platform, right? Also, like how do I?
Yeah. Well, it's actually much simpler than that, right?
Okay.
So most people will start small, right?
Right?
Most people might say, okay, there's 10 people that I would consider renting my cabin.
Right.
So I'm just going to invite these 10 people to basically be part of the network and say, if you're interested in renting my cabin, you're part of a private group that could rent my cabin, and I'm going to invite you to look at my listing, right? The listing that shows kind of the rules of the house, the availability with the calendar, just those basic things, and start with that community. And then if they're interested, they'll send you, they can send you an email through an inquiry through our site. And then you can, basically, we're not even going to handle the payment, because if you're a friend, you can just write a check or, Venmo somebody the payment, or, PayPal it or whatever. So it's going to be very simple. The idea is to keep this really simple and let the owner of the property kind of control everything, which is very different from if you've ever listed on Airbnb or VRBO. Those platforms control all the rules.
Sure.
You're basically just you have to live with their rules, and they take their toll on it. They charge people, guest fees, and you kind of have to do that.
They have
but
to.
We're just going to keep it really simple. So invite your guests, let them see your listing, let them decide if they want to rent from you.
So you build an environment where I can actually make a picture book of what's available, and I can disclose the terms, the times, and then I just allow a certain group to kind of like sharing a Dropbox link, whereas like only when I send that link they can actually have access to my listing.
It's otherwise nobody even knows it's available.
Okay.
Right. This idea that so the core idea is that Airbnb and VRBO are trying to turn your cabin into a hotel. They want to make it as much of a hotel experience, right? Very impersonal, very automated, book online, very transactional.
Yeah.
And for many people that are running it as a business, that's fine. That's what they want.
Right.
They want to maximize their revenue.
Right.
Our thesis is that there's many people that own these special places that don't want that to be the experience.
Right.
Would love to share it with family and friends, but that becomes awkward sometimes, because you might have rules for your cabin that are very specific for very good reasons, and it can be exhausting to explain all of that to somebody that wants to stay at your cabin. And perhaps you don't allow pets because pets can be left outside and noisy, and they can bother your neighbors. So you may be like, we don't allow animals, and then your friend wants to come and bring their animal, and you have to explain why you don't allow animals. And now and this is all because I've had these experiences.
Yeah.
And your friend's trying to understand why you don't like dogs now, and it's like, no, you don't understand. It has nothing to do with that. So you can remove all that awkwardness by saying the rules are on the listing. If you like what we offer, then let us know, and you're welcome to stay there. And you might, we think a lot of people would use this just to let friends use their places for free, but just remove the hassle of allowing people to stay at their cabins, and just make it like, hey, I feel good because my cabin's being used more. And it's not a hassle every time somebody wants to use it. So we're going to offer like a free basic thing that's like, if you just want to let your family members use it, we're going to give you the tools to do that. That's going to be free or very, very low cost. And then if you want to have like a larger group of people, maybe 25, 50 friends have availability, there'll be a little bit more there. And then if you want to have a little larger version of it, that we're going to build that. Again, this is the vision of it, so we're starting small and simple.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think our idea is to have more people be able to afford a second home or cabin, feel better about using it, not let the economics of the taxes and the maintenance sort of be daunting, because they can maybe, rent it out a little bit. One thing that people don't realize is you can rent a cabin for 14 days a year, 100% tax-free.
Okay.
So for some folks, that might pay their tax bill every year.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to report it as income on your IRS forms or anything. So there's a lot of people that I think if they knew that, they might say,
what else experiences that you have, because I am hesitant. I'm gone every year for 2 weeks to Germany, and I have given my cabin to friends and without charge. I just, hey, it's vacant. Do you don't want to take? And I sometimes feel like, hey, just take advantage of me, and it's awkward. And then I'm not doing this anymore, really, to say like, hey, don't you want to? I'm almost upset that nobody wants to enjoy my little beach there, but like, it's awkward. I hesitate also to ask for money. I cannot just say like, hey, friend, you want to come, and then I ask you for money. But like with that platform, it's really, it's somewhat of a, there's a compensation. That's a good a middle ground.
Well, what it allows you to do is to get rid of that awkwardness. Because
exactly.
It's spelled out on a website, on your listing. Mm-hmm. This is the rules, and you might say, you know what, I just want to charge $25 a day because that covers my cost. water cost, my electricity cost, my cleaning cost, whatever. And so, people will say, gosh, that's very reasonable. That's very kind of you now. And so instead of having to ask them and explain why you charge any money, you can explain it. And they can look at that and they can decide if that's the terms and conditions they're comfortable with, and they can send you an email saying, Dirk, this sounds great. We'd love to stay at your cabin while you're in Germany. And so all of a sudden turning an awkward conversation into a benefit for both sides, right? Where you're feeling good because somebody's staying in your cabin and watching it, making sure that pipe's not burst or something, and they're feeling great because like, oh man, this is awesome. We have this great little hidden gem. And so think about scaling that to the point where if you had 10 friends who had different houses around the world, or if someone has a mountain house, somebody has a lake house, somebody has a pied de terre in Paris, and all of a sudden you have access to this amazing network of places that are all through your social network and friends.
Oh, now I see.
And now this gets really interesting to think about.
It's kind of couch surfing on a different level.
Couch surfing, but for I guess adults, right? Because couch surfing is great when you're 21, 22 years old. But when you're, let's say north of 40 years old, all of a sudden you're like, I'd like to stay at an actual house, and I'd like to maybe bring my family and my spouse, and so it changes it. So, but this idea of, if you go on Airbnb and VRBO, and believe me, I use that because I manage multiple vacation rentals, and I'm a customer of VRBO and on Airbnb because I do run those more like businesses. But my cabin in Minnesota, I wouldn't do it that way, right? So that's a different thing. So there are different pieces of each one of these things that make sense. But I do really think about the fact that it's so much work to find a vacation home that you rent. You can spend hours and hours and hours inquiring on dozens of homes before you find the right one. Right. And then oftentimes people walk in and I didn't know there was an oil refinery right next to that house, right? Or like the photos didn't match, or the photos were taken 10 years ago and the house doesn't look anything like that. I mean, the war stories are so predominant that there's so many people that get burned by it. So, I think if you could simplify that by saying, I know somebody with a house. And
interesting.
And I know them and I trust them, and here's the deal. So that's kind of the idea.
And that clearly was an idea that was born through the ownership of a lake home in Minnesota, yeah?
Absolutely. From the earliest days of watching my grandparents have this, amazing ability to get away an hour away from Fargo and come out here to Detroit Lakes area is, I grew up thinking, man, that is magical, and how many people would love that? So it was all born out of that.
Very interesting. So looking at Vergas and your lifelong experience, what do you like most about the area? Like what is your secret hidden gem?
Well, I mean, we do spend a lot of our time floating on inner tubes and boating on the lake, right? Okay. That's what the core of everything. Cooking on the grills and, like I said, playing cards at night. But we all have like sort of cooler days or rainy days. So being able to do getaways and road trips to, Perham or, we'd go to Vergas almost every day.
Right.
When Goodman's Market was there, we would go every day to get fresh bread and meat. So that was sad when that closed down. But I go to Vergas Hardware probably 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I love that.
Paul Pinky. I love that. That's one of my favorite stores. The smell when you walk in.
Yeah,
I know. It's a smell unlike any place in the world. So I love, all of those little memories. Yeah. All the cafes. We ate here in Perham at the Lakes Cafe this morning. Yeah. It's just, those are unique things. And I think, and then, we'd go to Detroit Lake Cinema for rainy days to go see a movie. And we have all these strong memories of these experiences. And now, I mean, it's amazing how great Detroit Lakes is getting. We went mountain biking yesterday at Detroit Mountain. Yeah. I mean, that was far exceeded our expectations. The quality of we rented their bikes, the trails, it was unbelievable. And my friend Andy, who's with me, he just went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming and went mountain biking. And he said, this was every bit as good as that. And it's right here, right here in the backyard, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I love seeing the growth because, while growth can mean traffic and, change, it means there's more to do. And it kind of creates a flywheel effect where you get things that are, better for people to come out here and spend more time. And I love the fact now that with, the internet growth, people can spend more time in the lakes, right? So you don't have to just come on Saturday and Sunday. Now people can spend Wednesday through Sunday, and they can work remote a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that trend is going to be massively transformational for the lakes area because people can maintain kind of work and life out here in the lakes region. You don't have to leave just to go back to work.
Yeah, interesting. So my theory lately was that like rural America or like remote places, which, well, we are isolated. I mean, it's just the way it is. And then it's always like there's not enough jobs. Maybe, I mean, we have a lot of jobs in our area, so that is wrong for our area. But other places where, let's say, there is no industry or economics or manufacturing or whatever you can do, jobs available, with the ability to home office or like the technology, we can have an office in my house and I do my job for a call center, or I don't even know what it is, data entry for a insurance company, or reviewing files, even video conferencing. Is that what you meant? Like
Absolutely. I've been working several hours a day every day since I've been here.
And so you're practically not even on vacation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do work just a couple hours, not 8 to 10 hours like I would if I was back in Portland at the office.
But you're not shutting down.
Not shutting down. I'm maintaining continuity, right? So the way I told the CEO of the company I'm at a company right now called CrowdStreet, and I'm the chief marketing officer there. And I told the CEO, I said, I'm going to go to Minnesota for a couple weeks. But I will be in touch with the office. I will be checking emails and maintaining, I'll have phone calls as I needed. And so it allows me to not have to disconnect and then come back after 2 weeks and be, having to spend a couple days getting back up to speed. Like I'm up to speed of what's happening with the business, but I'm also being, able to go fishing and have the afternoons here at the lake. So that blend of work-life changes everything. And I think that trend is so powerful, and like you said, you're not reliant on, having to say, am I going to find a job in Vergas or Perham or, Detroit Lakes? Maybe,
You bring your job with.
I can live in Minneapolis or Fargo or Grand Forks, and I can change my life in the summer, get down to the lake cabin more often, spend more time there. That's an amazing.
It's a thing in Germany highly discussed, right? Like new work environments. Actually, there was a professor, now I kept the name, he is actually in the United States. He's from Sachsen, Germany, from the 1970s. He started the new work discussion on how technology and processes influence our work environment. And now with automation or access to technology, we have a new work definition or direction. Yeah. So looking at your children, and you mentioned you have 3, and they are entering the workforce. Your youngest is still in high school, but they're about to enter, let's say, in the next 5 years, all of them.
Absolutely.
So looking at the past of your grandfather delivering appliances, I mean, we will have somebody delivering appliances or selling appliances, but the non-existing opportunities. Now, focusing on your 3 children, like, what do you foresee for them? Like, do they already mention, like, hey, I want to live in a mountain house, and I'm a programmer, I can do that?
So it's interesting. So my oldest daughter is a firefighter.
Okay,
so she's 22, so she has to go to a fire station.
All right.
She loves it, and so she would. In fact, sadly, she has not been able to make the last 2 years here because she couldn't get her shift changes.
Oh.
So, but she's pretty bummed out about that. So my other daughter is a senior at Oregon State, so she's going to be entering the workforce, and she's an interior design major and a business minor. So when she was here, she did come here for almost a week, and she talked about maybe I should look at Minneapolis and Fargo as places to think about when I graduate because of lake life. Honestly, this idea of being in Minneapolis and being able to drive up here most weekends was really alluring to her. So,
really?
And my son, he loves it here more than probably anyone next to me in the world. And he's already wondering, when can I spend time at the lake? Maybe I can get some internships and jobs up there as soon as possible. And would love to be here because he's an outdoorsman and he's very active and he's good with his hands, and he would love to do whatever it takes to kind of get some more time here. So who knows? But he's a very bright kid, and so he'll probably end up doing something in engineering or so who knows what that'll lead him to. But
those jobs may not necessarily like firefighting, interior design, or engineering, but like your CEO allowed, or like your office environment gave you the opportunity to be remote. I think it will be even more. Like
most people work in front of computers today.
Exactly.
Right?
So
I don't care what your industry is. Even my daughter in interior design is primarily sitting in front of doing CAD design, computer-aided
Right.
design of homes. So that is, if you're sitting in front of a computer for 6
can
to
do
8
that
hours
anywhere.
a day, you're connected to the internet. You can do most of that work remotely, or at least for a month a year. So you're right. I mean, it's even if you're in a job that might need some sort of local presence.
Yeah, I
you
thought
have
she
the
has to go in a
capability.
house,
I
experience.
mean, there's
like-
some of that, right? But now you can get great 3D imaging. I mean, you can honestly have almost everything at your fingertips.
Yeah,
So,
that's the thing.
and that's
So you
yeah,
agree?
you're right. No, I 1,000% agree. And I've actually, when I first got online in 1995, my dad connected me to the internet at his school, and
I was
like,
in Barnesville, the same
and
1995.
I was like, this is going to change everything because
Yeah.
now people can work, and that's when I got even more interested in this idea of second homes because like this is going to be a great investment because the economics of second home ownership will fundamentally change, and rural values will go up
Right.
because people have this freedom now.
Right.
And I think it's taken longer. I actually thought that was going to happen like in early 2000.
So we're still at the beginning.
But we're still in these early days where, the world hasn't adapted to this new mindset. But I think 10, 20 years from now, it will be very common for people to be spending a lot of their summer, in the Lake Life region, which means the economics of these small towns could get really better, much better
Yeah,
because
I agree.
now you have people with money who have good paying jobs in, Fargo and Minneapolis spending a lot of time here and hopefully spending money here. I would say that's the one thing I would strongly urge your audience to think about is every dollar you spend in those small towns makes such a difference.
Yeah.
Don't bring don't go to Walmart and buy all your groceries and then bring them in your car. Spend your money at the local stores. Why? Because if you don't, those local stores won't be here.
Like Goodman's.
Yeah, Goodman's is so
It's-
sad, and just all the local stores. I mean, the little new coffee shop in Vegas, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Go and spend
Yeah.
money at these coffee shops because we love having them. But if we don't support them, they won't be here.
That's true.
And the hardware store, right? I mean, I love Menards and Troy Lakes. That's a fun store, and I always go there. But I will go spend money at Vergus Hardware because if I don't do it, who's going to support it?
Yeah.
And that won't be here. And honestly, that'll be devastating if that happens, and hopefully it doesn't.
But I also think actually as we can see with the Toys R Us and the big what are they called? Not Blockbuster, but
Big
those
box
big
stores
box
and-
stores. I don't know. We don't need a Home Depot, and we're getting away a little bit here from it's an economical discussion, but it goes back to small town America, in my opinion, and the Verguses and the Perms, because we don't need a Menards, a Fleet Farm, and a Home Depot, because if you look at the shelving, I don't know how many $1 million are of debt capital sitting in those things. They have so many sales going on to have their cash flow going because they cannot afford the loan for all the inventory that they have. So if you look at the small Ace Hardware stores, and for example, in Vergus or Perm, they are feeding a family. It's a family-operated business usually. And they can do that because they don't have so much debt capital sitting in. There's only one or two items, but it's available, it's there. But I think they will survive, and the big ones they probably won't. So, you know what I'm?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think small
They
retailing
will survive, but I
will come
do
back.
think people have to shop intentionally. And I think if you want
I think it's going to come,
those,
though.
if you want those businesses to be there, you have to think about spending money there, because if the local, even second home owners don't support those businesses,
Yeah.
because so many people are buying everything on Amazon now, so forget about even Home Depot and Menards as local giant big boxes. People just buy everything on Amazon and then just throw
Not
it in their
everything.
car. Well,
It's interesting.
yeah,
Like,
but I think it is something that people need to think about. Is could I wait and buy this when I'm
okay, I tell you this, and then we get away from this hard discussion. But no, I like it. So, Amazon is failing in one big thing. It's the experience. I only go on Amazon if I want the cheapest of the cheapest. I already know I need that item, so I compare. So I don't have a purchasing experience. I go to Menards I admit, to get, it's usually the cheapest. So I go there for the cheapest. But if I want a consumer experience, I need to go to the small retail stores because there's the smell that I memorize. I grew up in retail. My mom had kids' clothing stores. I know how it is to decorate. I know that the window decoration was done every 2 weeks and it was critical. Or how it's set up, like how much passion and personality actually is incorporated, or if you go to small restaurants, like if you name Spanky's, there's a personality, and I think a human is seeking more personality again as ever, because all the Walmarts and the big box places, they have no personality, but economic.
Agree.
So that's what I actually meant, and I'm sorry, it's always sometimes difficult for me to explain. I think the small town retail environments will have a renaissance, or like a rebirth, or like a same word, but they will find attractiveness again from the average consumer because of the personality. I think it will come naturally, but we do need to support that.
I hope so.
Yeah, okay.
I hope so, and I hope they can sustain themselves to that. Right?
To that point, yeah.
Because I agree, because I think we do. I think shopping will become experience-based. Right? It'll be convenience-based with Amazon. You'll just buy it because you know exactly what you want, and it just gets delivered to you. But then when we want an experience, we will go out to some of these stores where you can actually find somebody that knows how to use the product you're going to buy, because you don't get that at the other stores. So you're trying to figure it out, and then you go to watch YouTube videos. But you can have somebody just show you right there in the store, this is how it works. That's awesome. So we're on the same page.
Yeah, I know we are.
But I do want to. I just always want to point out, because it's something my family talks about. My mom feels very passionate about this. We need to support these businesses. We got to think about where we're spending our money.
Yeah.
And even if it's 10% more money, it's so worth it.
And I think, you know what, the beautiful thing though is, and Perm is a beautiful example too. We have individually owned retail, fashion, a lot of fashion here. And I know for a fact that in the area, a lot of people, women in particular, come to Perm to purchase, and they love it. They always talk. I speak to, we love to go to Perm, and Perm is a very good example of a small town shopping experience, and it has sustained. It seems like there's new stores coming up, which I love, and I know though too. I feel like in our local area, people are willing to pay the 10% more, or like the 10 cent or whatever. I think I'm very happy to know that in Lakes Country we are very local aware, and we want to preserve that. I think
that's great. Well, you know better than I do, because you live here and you run businesses here.
Yeah.
I come in for a few weeks a year. And,
you outside.
So I'm encouraged to hear that that's the case.
I think so. But it doesn't mean that we can lean back now. But I just feel that we really will experience more growth in the next 10 years and 20 probably, with even your kids' generation finding the opportunity or to work and live here. I think we will really. It's beautiful.
Yeah, gotta keep it somewhat secret though.
Yeah, I know.
We don't want the whole world to discover it. So
to be too crowded.
Absolutely.
So that was really interesting. I find. I hope everybody found. So you have a couple of weeks remaining, or like a couple of days.
No, sadly, we're pulling out Sunday or Monday.
Oh, okay.
So we drive here. We pull a boat across the Rockies. It's a little crazy.
Anybody sees a boat on I-94 in the next few days?
Wave, give me a wave.
Montana? Wave.
So it'll be my son and I road tripping home.
Okay.
And we love the drive though. You know, all the way across North Dakota, Montana, Idaho. It's beautiful.
It's on my bucket list.
It's phenomenal. So we love it, and we've had road trouble, and we usually have some adventure, between the boat, the trailer, the car. But it's great.
But Looney Days is part of the program.
We're here for Looney Days. Yep. So we'll be there's two bands, tonight and tomorrow night. So we're excited about that, and. Maybe we'll catch the end of the rummage sales, and I love all the little magic of the Looney Days, and I love the fact that, and I loved your podcast on the history of it, because I didn't know the history of it, so that was actually super informative. So I was, on my rowing machine in Portland, working out, excited to be here soon, and that was the last thing I listened to.
We were able to touch you.
Yeah, exactly.
Prepare you.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was very kind of you to stop in, take your time out of your holiday. Thank you for sharing that and sharing your insight on lake life, and that you are holding the Minnesota flag up all over Chicago. You're inviting friends from Chicago, and you raised a family here in lake life experience. Thank you so much for coming in.
That's a total pleasure. Appreciate it.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Yeah, this was already our newest episode of the Lake Life Weekend podcast. We sure hope you enjoyed it. Tune in again next week with another great guest and updates. Always check out our website, lakelifeweekend.com, and if you have some comments, please feel free to email us at hello@lakelifeweekend.com, and you have a wonderful weekend ahead.